In your kit, you will receive an instruction leaflet, a piece of felt, the needle felting mat and needles. You've got different ones depending on what you're doing. The white tip is the coarse one for shaping and for coarser fibres, and the medium one for general use, which will be inside the packaging. You will also get a selection of different colours for your picture. Now all of them will be different, and that's what I love about these kits, is that none of them are ever the same. So I'll start. You will also need a pencil or a pen to draw the basic lines on. To start with, draw the line of your horizon just across the top. Slightly curved, but there's no right or wrong. Then start slightly lower down on one side. And again, just draw a line which is going to be another field all the way across. And then the last one, do a bit of a rainbow shape, joining up. And it all depends what size you would like your sky and your fields. And we're going to have some sheep in here as well. And then pop your mat down together, and then put your piece of fleece with your picture on your mat. So when you're needle felting, it goes through onto the mat. You will keep pulling it off every so often, because as you felt, it will felt into the mat. Now, needle felting needles break if they're not kept straight. They last pretty well otherwise. They have little tiny barbs on, so have a look at yours. You can see the little barbs, and that helps the felt join together. As long as you keep your needle felting needle straight as you're poking it in, it shouldn't break. Please excuse my fingers. I garden a lot and use a lot of copper wire, so they end up slightly tainted with the colour. We're going to start with the sky. So collect your lilac, dark purple and black, then aqua, fresh pink, white, golden and neon yellow. And then we're going to take a little bit of dark purple and black and pop it in the top corner. So move the others out of the way, and then just take a little pinch of the lilac and the black, and then blend them together. And that, you just hold on to each side, pull them apart, and then it will mix them together a little bit. Remember, there isn't a right and a wrong. Every picture is going to be unique. And when you've mixed them together, pop them in the top corner. So I've got quite a lot there, so I'm going to just reduce it. And then I'm going to needle felt that in. To needle felt, you just stab your needle into the felt. And you see it's poking in as I'm doing it. Makes quite a satisfying noise. And then if you give it a little pull off, you can see where it's felting in. You can also purchase multi-tools from the makers. I'll pop the website below. And you can use your needle just to move it a little bit as you're felting in. And we're going to go all the way along the top with the same colour, just doing little bits as it's dark at the top of the horizon. I'll come back when I've done that. Next, you're going to need your lilac and flesh pink. You see my sky, the dark sky, is slightly uneven, and I kept pulling it off. You can see where it's needle felted. Kept pulling it off the mat. Again, we're going to put a little bit of the lilac just underneath the line of the dark sky as it gets lighter with the sunrise. pull little bits off. It's always best to work with little bits at a time because you can always add more. And just go along the edge of the dark line with the purple. Remember, you can pause the video at any time so you can catch up or fiddle around with what you're doing. When you've added a little bit of the light purple, then add a little bit of the flesh colour. Again, anywhere that you would like. I'm going to pop a little bit here, but just below the line of the purple, just to show little flecks of light. And it doesn't matter if some of the pink shows through, because it's sympathetic to the colour of your needle felting picture anyway, because sometimes you get some pink in the sky. Just keep adding little bits as you go along. And then we're going to add a little bit of the blue and the white along the line here as well. So pause your video and you can come and join me again when you've added a few of the little wisps of felt. So I'm going to add a little bit more white over the top of this blue because I think it's quite bright for the sky. So I've mixed a teeny bit of blue and white and just pulled them together. I'm just going to cover that up a little bit just so it isn't quite so vibrant. It just pales it down a little bit to make it look a bit more like the sun is brightening in the sky over there. Don't forget to pull your needle felting off the mat every so often. And then keep going with a little bit more of the blue and white across the sky. And then we're going to put the orange and yellow over here. Next we're going to add a little ball of the golden yellow to make a little sunshine. So the way I find easiest doing is I hold it in my fingers and I just keep pinching it and then twist it round, pinch a bit more and just keep going round, and it kind of makes a little ball shape. Remember, you can always add more, tuck it round at the back and then you end up with a little ball. And then we can needle felt that in. It's a little large, so I'll just needle felt it a bit smaller. So there's my skyline. So I'm going to needle felt it at the bottom there. I'm going to needle felt along the line that I did. Remember, the skyline doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to have hills and things there as well. So I'm going to needle felt around in a circle shape or half circle. And if you do that, if you just go round in a half circle shape, you can fold that in. Fold the rest of the wool in to make a sun shape. It's quite forgiving. And then just go around the edge again, just poking it in. Don't forget to just pull off the mat every so often. So there's the rough shape of my sunshine. And then I'm going to take a little wisp of the orange and a wisp of the yellow, and I'm going to mix them together like the sun is radiating out. Makes a lovely bright colour. Kind of looks like it's wisping across the sky. You can take bits out if you're not happy with them. So I'm just going to felt that in around my sun, going along, as the sky often does, in little wispy lines. You can actually, I've got a little bit here, so I can just pull it along, make it go all the way along to the side. It goes a little bit across my sun, but I'm happy with that. Remember, if you don't like something, you can just get hold of it and pull it out, and it will just come out. So I'm going to pause the video and come back when I've done that. So I've added some more here, and what I found was quite good was if you mix a little bit and then you hold it and then do a couple of spikes into the felt. Put your finger where you've just felted and just pull away, and then you end up with a little wispy bit that you can then felt in, going sideways as though it's going across the sky. And I've got a bit of a bare bit here which is pink, so I'm just going to add a little bit more purple here and something down here, a bit of the orange that's left there. So once I filled in these bits, he ended up with quite a dark bit there, so I'm just going to add a little bit more of the yellow and orange above the sun. And you can just add little bits. I've got a few bare bits over here, but I'm just going to carry on with the rest of it and then come back to that if I decided I want to add anything later. Next we're going to draw the horizon line, and we're going to use the different colours to do this furthest away field here. So first of all we're going to take a little bit of the black and the white and mix it together to make a line in the horizon. Make sure it's uneven because it's more like the skyline. Just take a little bit of the white and the black and mix it together, and then felt along the line, because having a dark line on the horizon makes it contrast with the sky. Remember to move your mat so you're always needle felting onto the mat below, the made felting mat. So I'm actually just going to needle felt a little bit, then put my finger on and pull the other bit off, and then use it to do a dark line along the edge. Remember, the more uneven it is, the more realistic it will look, because you have hills and tors on the moors, and it will look like you're looking across the moors. So keep going along the top, and I'll come back when I've done that. So I've needle felted along my horizon, and I've got a little wisp left, so I'm going to bundle it up. Just going to rub it round in my fingers and make a tor. So it's literally just rolled around. I'm going to put it on the skyline just there maybe, and I'm just going to felt that down. Again, these things don't have to be perfect. You want to put it any way you like, that's absolutely fine. Just adds a feature in the horizon. There we go, and there's my tor. See, it's not perfect in any way, but when you're looking at the bigger picture, it will look like a tor. And if you see any bits that need a little bit more felting, just needle felt it as you go along. And next we're going to colour in this field just here using the darker green. So we're going to use these two colours and mix them up. Take a pinch again of each. It's quite a big pinch, but that's okay. And just mix them up again as you've done the other ones, and just needle felt them randomly across your field underneath the dark patch in the sky. And the more uneven they are, the more realistic it will look, because fields are never the same colour, so it will just add different patches of light and dark in your fields in the horizon. Sometimes it's good just to stop and take a photograph of your work and then have a look at it, because then you can see the bigger picture when you're up close to it. It doesn't always look as nice as you want it to, or the way you pictured it, but nature's always different. So just keep going and take a step back and have another look, and I'm sure it will look brilliant by the end of it. And that you have enjoyed doing it is the main purpose of it anyway. Trying something new is always good. So I'll come back when I've felted these bits on, all the way across this bit here. So I felted that. Sometimes rubbing your finger across it makes it look a little less needle felted. Next we're just going to do a little bit down here. You can just see the line, and this little bit up here, and we're going to use our olive green and the honey coloured one. Again, just take little wisps of wool and give them a mix together. And just needle felt those to make a different colour line, so you can see that there's another field there. So I'm just going to pop that bit down, felt it. Just taking little wisps at a time. This one's got quite long strands, you can see. But it's just a slightly different colour to this field, so it looks different. Add a little bit more there. And again, they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to stay in the lines that you've drawn, just roughly, so you've still got space in the foreground for a couple of sheep. This is quite nice because it's got quite long strands. Actually, it looks like it's got little paths walking across, which we often get on the moors. There we go. If we pull that off again, move it over and add a little bit down here as well. Got a little bit left. I'm going to pop it down there. So I felted that down. And next we're going to add a little riverbed going along here, and then this bit here will be for the foreground. So if you want to draw a little line where your river will run, then just get your pencil and draw your line across. Again, this is optional. If you don't want to do a river, then carry on and skip to the next bit. I'm just going to take a little bit of the mushroom black, brown and black, only a teeny bit of the black, and then the mushroom brown, and we're going to make a curved line going along this line because that's going to be the centre of the river. So I'm just going to start where my line begins, just here. I'm just going to poke my needle in along the line and just give it a little pull so I don't add too much. And then go to the next bit and just pop my needle in, and it will just attach a little bit. Give it a pull. Got quite a lot there. And just following my line round, just so you've got a curved line, so it looks like the river is going down the hill line. And the variation in colour is good, so it doesn't have to be a perfect mix. Just adds different tones. There we go. And then we're going to mix some of the blue, so the white and the blue, just again take little pinches, mix them together and add them to the river. You can always add a bit more green along here if your river's a bit too wide. Again, just go over the top of the line, or right next to the line that you've just done, and that will cover it up a little bit, so it will just have a little bit of the darkness coming through. And we're going to add little details as we go along, little hedges next to the river to make it look like it's flowing down, and having little bits, wisps of white, makes the river look like it's got some movement in it. So I'm going to add a little bit more to the edges here, and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of the lighter colours. I've mixed a little bit of my blue and white there, And then I'm actually going to add a little bit of beige, because I know when I'm on the moors the water never looks particularly blue, or has a slightly muddy colour to it where the sheep and the cows have been in it. So I'm just going to needle felt those into that space. So I've needle felted that down, and now we're going to work on the foreground, this bit here. Next we're going to be colouring in this section down here with the mix of greens that we have left. So I'm just going to take a pinch of each of them and just mix them together. I think the instructions has did it in a different order to me, but that doesn't matter. So if you just mix it a little bit, then the different colours will come through. And I'm just going to mix a few bits before I felt it down, making sure you keep a little bit of the darker wool to add texture and shape to, you know, little bushes and things for the river. We're only working with really small amounts at the moment, so we're just going to add little bits, different colours, and just needle felt those down. Remember, we're going to add some sheep on there as well in a minute. But this just adds the different colours of the land, which is quite nice. So I'll come back when I've filled in my space. So I felted all that down. You can see that you can still see the felt colour underneath, but that's okay. It just adds another colour to it. From now on, we're just going to be adding subtle details here and there to refine the landscape and add texture. So we're going to move on from our white needle, felting needle, and take the medium needle, and we're going to add details like the sheep in the foreground here and a few hills and things. So we're going to just take our little, it's called the dragon mix. I do love these colours, and we're just going to add little flecks of it here in the foreground. So what I'm actually going to do is pull out a little bit of the green and move it over sideways, and then add little wisps of this. Sometimes it's got blues and pinks and oranges and yellows in it. It's just such a lovely mix of colours. Just adds a little bit of texture to your work. Just add teeny little wisps, just a pinch here and there, and just needle felt it in. You'll feel the difference with the needle. It's a slightly different texture when you're felting in. Again, keep it nice and straight so it doesn't snap. So I've added a little bit too much there, so I'm just going to pull it off, take the wisp away and felt it in. Could just be a bit of heather on the landscape, or whatever you would like it to be. So I'm just going to needle felt those bits down. And next I'm going to add a sheep. So I'm going to have my sheep just here. So I'm going to use a bit of the white wool if you've got any left, and if not, then just use a little bit of the sheep's curls. So take the bit that isn't quite as woolly. And we're going to shape it into a sheep. So basically you're just going to just pull off a little bit, and again roll it in your fingers. If it doesn't roll very well, just dampen your fingers a little bit and it will roll. And you're going to pop it down and then needle felt it round in a circle. And there you have the shape of a sheep. It doesn't have to be perfect, as I keep saying. There we go, there's our sheep. And we're going to add a little bit for its face, a little bit of black. Again, roll it up into a little ball. It's probably going to be a bit big, so I'm just going to pull that apart and give it another roll. This time kind of a bit more of a curl shaped like a banana, and then needle felt that at the top of the ball. You needle felt in the centre first, and then you can just bring it out to the side. You can always add more little bits. Again, it's just showing that it's a sheep. And you can add some legs. Again, take a tiny wisp of the black and roll it like a little sausage. I'm just going to pull that apart and just pop it down. Needle felt it there where a leg's going to go. It's quite a long leg for my sheep, but that's okay because we're going to pop a little bit of green in the front of it so it doesn't look like it's just floating there. And then if you take a little wisp of your darker green that we've got left and just pop it in the front of the sheep just by its legs so it looks like it's actually stood in the grass on the moors. And there we have our first sheep, and you can add a few more in different places. So I'm going to pop another one just here. This one's going to have be in a different direction, so facing the other way. So I'm just going to twiddle the wool again. Pop it over here. So because it's not facing us, I'm just going to do it in a bit more of an oval. Okay, just use your needle just to gently move it to where you want it to go. And then needle felt round the edge of it so it keeps it in place. And then I'm going to do it as though it's putting its head to the ground. So again, a little bit of black. Give it a twiddle in your fingers. And then pop it down. Needle felt in the middle first. And a little bit out to the side. So it looks like it's got its head down to the ground. And just add a few legs. Again, just twiddle it. And if you hold it where you want the first bit to start, poke it in, and then again you can just use your finger to hold it still and just pull it off. You can see it's got a tiny little bit there. Just going to add another one. And pulling it off, and add another one. Might add a little bit more white over the top of that because it looks like its leg is coming from its wrong place. So you can just cover it over. Add a bit more white if you want to. I'm going to gently needle felt that round. And sometimes when you get a wisp, you can twiddle it round your needle and then just poke it in. You can see the white's got long strands. So just poke that one in. There we go. And again, you can just add a little bit more of your green just where its legs are, just so it doesn't look like it's floating. And there we have 2 sheep. And you can carry on and add a couple more. I'm going to add quite a big one just here, looking directly at us. And this bit's quite bare anyway with the green, so that's quite a good place to add it. So again, make another ball. Give it a twiddle and pop it down and go round in your circle. just keep going round until you get a shape that you like. I'm going to add a little bit more there and leave it fluffy, because wool never looks completely round when you look at a sheep, does it? Because it's always so curly. Just going to give that a little tug off. It's got such long strands, look at that. That's okay. I'm just going to twirl it around, keep felting until my sheep isn't quite so fluffy around the edge. There we go. And then I'm going to add a slightly more detailed face to this one because it's a bit closer. So I'm going to do a little ball first in the centre. And then I'm going to add some ears off to the side. And pop another little bit in there. One ear and one off to the other side. You can just keep felting until you get the shape that you would like. So I'm going to make its face a little bit longer down the bottom, because that's what sheep tend to look like. So I've just taken the tiniest little bit there. I'm just going to pop it just underneath my circle, so it gives a bit more of a triangle face to the sheep. There we are. It's looking a little better. Again, could do with being a bit curvier down the bottom. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. You just keep fiddling just the tiniest bits each time to give you a good shape. Oh, there we go. That looks a bit better, doesn't it? That looks more like a sheep anyway. There we are. And then I'm going to add some legs for this one as well. So I've still got a tiny bit there. So just roll it into a sausage. And pop it there. And another little bit of black. And add that to the front as well. When you've added as many sheep as you'd like, use the little wisps of wool that have curls in to add a bit more texture to your sheep. So if you use a little tiny pair of scissors, you can cut bits off and add it to your sheep. So I'm going to get that bit. We don't usually cut wool, but for this purpose we're going to. It's always better to tease wool apart, but when you're trying to get a specific curl, it's good to use scissors. Don't really see the curls that clearly, but it just adds a bit of extra texture to your sheep, which is quite nice. Especially the big one in the foreground. It's an extra curly sheep. Don't felt it too much in, because otherwise you'll lose that lovely curl. So I'm just going to add a couple more bits there around the other sheep. There we go. I've just made my sheep all nice and woolly. Next we're going to add some details to the river. We're going to carry on using the white curls to add like little bubbles in the water. So just pick a fine bit of the curl and just needle felt it into your river. Just adds a little bit of lightness, a little bit of texture and movement. Doesn't need to be precise, just add a little bit. And then we're going to use some of the brown curls to the picture, because it'll add like some bare plants or some rocks, different things. So I'm going to use the lighter bit here, and I'm just going to separate it because otherwise it will be quite big on my little picture. I'm just going to needle felt a bit in, and I'm going to go down to the bottom of my picture. And I am just going to snip that off just because it's right at the bottom, and then it just looks like a rock or a bit of gorse that's dried out, which there often is on the moors. If you just add a few other bits of brown just randomly in the picture, wherever you feel like. And you can always add some more bits in on the skyline. If it's not quite dark enough, you can pick a dark bit of your grey wool and add that as well. I'm just going to add a fine line. So you're just going to add whatever details you feel like, whatever looks good on your picture, or you feel looks good. I like the darkness against the sky, but also I'm going to add a bit more yellow to the front here, because then it looks like the sun is reflecting into the foreground. So again, just take a little pinch of your wool, just a very fine bit, because you're only adding just a little bit of the reflection of the light onto the hills. Just lightens it a little bit. It just looks like it's reflecting off the tips of the hills. We're going to add a few more of the brown curls to the riverbank to make it look like the edge of it. So you can decide where you want to put yours. I've got a couple of bits, just going to needle felt mine in there. Because of the edges of the river, I've always got a darker patch where the animals are coming in and out. Just keep going along, needle felting a little bit at a time, making sure you're staying on your mat. And just going to pop a little bit on the other side. So I added a line along there on this side and a little bit in the middle of the river, like there were some rocks. And I've just cut a little curl here, and I'm just going to pop it there, like it's a little pile of stones. Like the Tors always have piles of stones on them, don't they? And then you can just needle felt over bits that are a bit wispy that you want to change a little bit. I didn't quite finish those bits. Just add any other bits you want. If you want to add a little bit of purple to the horizon or into the fields, just to add a bit of colour matching, so as though it's reflecting. Little odd bits, just add a bit of colour and texture to your picture. If you feel like it's a little bit too purple, just add a bit more green over the top, or just keep fiddling with it until you like it. Just add a tiny bit at a time, and when you've done, just step back and have a little look at your picture. You can either frame it, or if you cut off neatly around the edges, you can see the felting comes off the edges, so it's a bit wispy. You can cut those off and neaten it, and either frame it or just pop it on something. You can put it on a bag, just sew around the edge onto just a plain bag, and there you have your little needle felted picture. I'm going to fiddle about with it a bit more, just needle felt a few bits in, use up my last wisps of green in the spaces that I've got, maybe add a little bit of a darker line on the horizon. So here's my finished picture. I've cut around the edge because it was all fluffy, and there we go. I hope you've enjoyed doing yours. Thanks for watching.